the Princess Royal controlled the imperial treasury, wielding immense power over the court. Yet, she fought my aloof and noble crown prince husband her entire life. My husband clearly hated her to the bone, but on the day she left the capital, Pei Jin committed suicide in his study, Your Majesty's of faceless female portraits. The Princess Royal seized the opportunity to turn the tables. Expressing unbearable grief, she actually made the crown prince fall so deeply in love that he lost all ambition. I humbly request Your Majesty to issue an edict to severely punish the Shen clan. When the emperor raged, millions would fall. He judged my family clan for failing to raise daughter properly, implicating 9 generations, to be buried with the crown prince. Every stroke of his brush was filled with his deep love for her. And my life as his fiancée, along with the Shen family behind me, were merely the most insignificant link in their loving grievances. When I opened my eyes again, I reborn with Pei Jin. When assassins reappeared at the royal hunting grounds, and everyone's lives hung in the balance, I ignored Pei Jin and threw myself in front of the emperor. From this moment on, in this life, I will soar 90,000 miles high. If I become the crown prince in the future, I will definitely marry you, and make you my only crown princess. Before I died, Pei Jin's lie echoed in my mind. I believed his words, which made me waste 3 years and end up dying miserably. For the past 3 years, I've been by his side, plotting and scheming, exhausting all my dowry, just to help him win the succession and ascend to the position of crown prince. Now, he has everything. But he slit his throat in his study, clutching a painting scroll, completely disregarding my fate. Even until his death, Pei Jin clung tightly to the painting scroll in his arms, unwilling to let go. In his study, painting after painting, each stroke delicate and tender, all drawn by his hand. But the woman in the portraits had no face. The day Pei Jin was buried, the grand princess knelt for a long time in the great hall. No matter how I defended myself, saying the woman in his portraits was never me, no one would believe me. The grand princess's accusation enraged the emperor. He decreed that my Shen clan was guilty of failing to raise a daughter properly, implicating 9 generations, and ordered me to be buried alive with the crown prince. But clearly, the grand princess was his unrequited love, his white moonlight. I was merely a pawn manipulated by Pei Jin, a tool to help him become the crown prince. How could I not resent him? How could I not hate him? I gave my all. And now, just because Pei Jin slit his throat, I have to lose my life, and ruin the Shen family's generational reputation. In this moment, an endless despair swept over me. Tears streamed down, and the suffocating feeling in my heart felt like it was going to strangle me. Hating to the extreme, if everything could start over, I would surely fulfill their desires, letting them become a desperate pair of lovers who defy ancestral rules, and cannot enter the imperial mausoleum. Ninging, your brother is returning from the border tomorrow. You're not allowed to cry. Mother rubbed my head, looking at me with eyes full of doting affection. I quietly gazed at mother's youthful face. You're only allowed to cry once, when you see your brother. You're not allowed to cry anymore. Or else he'll blame me for being too strict with you on weekdays. I rubbed my face, and the slight stinging pain made me realize that I had actually undergone rebirth. Rebirth into 16 years old, when everything had yet to happen. I was still the legitimate eldest daughter of the Shen family. Father hadn't resigned from office. Mother wasn't critically ill yet. And even brother Shen Yao hadn't met with any accident. This time, I will protect everything I have, and never repeat the same mistakes. After Shen Yao returned from the border, he often went into the palace to drink and discuss matters with second Prince Pei Huai and third Prince Pei Jin. In their opinion, I would definitely marry a prince from the imperial palace in the future. Shen Yao was helping me build good relationships beforehand, so I wouldn't suffer grievances later. This time, Shen Yao was going with them to the Golden Autumn hunt. The hunting ground was personally organized by the second prince, specifically to provide a venue for the princes to compete against each other. I clung to my brother, acting spoiled and insisting on going with him. Shen Yao, unable to deal with my fussing, teased me. Little sister. Have you taken a fancy to one of the princes? Just tell big brother straight. Is it the second prince, or the third prince? The second prince is the most favored recently, with a straightforward personality. He is quite a good choice. Shen Yao rested his chin in his hand, studying me with a serious expression. The third prince, Pei Jin, is taciturn and deep-minded. He is destined for greatness in the future. Without the protection of the Shen family, Pei Jin might not be valued by the emperor for a while. In this life, my gaze would no longer linger on them, causing me worry and stress. Brother, even if I'm to be married, I'd like to meet them beforehand. Shen Yao was persuaded by me, and agreed to take me to the Golden Autumn hunt. At the hunting ground, I saw Pei Jin again. His expression was cool and aloof. His gaze lingered on me for an instant, and there was a profound meaning in his eyes that I couldn't comprehend. His deep cold gaze overlapped with his previous life, giving me a sense of defei fei vu. I glanced at him, then quickly averted my eyes. This maiden, Shen Ning, greets the third prince. Pei Jin stared at me for an instant, then uncomfortably shifted his gaze away. Miss Shen, can you ride a horse? Pei Jin took me hunting with him. The Shen family comes from a lineage of generals. While men go to the battlefield to kill enemies, women cannot lag behind either. Not only must they be skilled with embroidery needles, but they must also be able to wield long spears. Although my mother tried her best to discipline my behavior and manners, making me into a virtuous and gentle woman, but she couldn't change the blood in my veins. A born martial general never admits defeat. All the princes went hunting, waiting to see who would have the most prey when they returned. Shen Yao made me ride a pony and play, not allowing me to follow along. I waited until they had all left, then had someone lead me a gentle-natured horse. I was originally just riding around the camp, and the servants, seeing that I didn't intend to leave, also relaxed their vigilance towards me. Once they stopped watching me, I rode my horse onto a small path. That path was where Pei Jin and I encountered assassins back then, but strangely, in this life, he didn't choose to take this path. Back then, after I saved Pei Jin, I met the current emperor. He praised me for being courageous and resourceful, truly worthy of being a daughter from a general's family. That night at the banquet, this matter reached the Empress Dowager's ears. The Empress Dowager jokingly said that I was fated with Pei Jin, and told him to repay the life-saving grace by marrying me. She did not issue an imperial decree to bestow a marriage on the spot, but a casual remark tied my name to Pei Jin. After that, everyone tacitly assumed I was his fiancée. This time, even if it is to save him, I won't save him again. When I saw that man in the dark, mysterious black robes, I suddenly gripped the reins tightly, a coldness spreading through my heart. Pei Yanzhou, the emperor arriving incognito, and the beginning of my splendid glory in this life. But before I even got close, I heard sounds around me, and the ground itself vibrated in tremors. I suddenly looked up, only to see all the assassins in the grass swarming forward. They held their swords and charged at Pei Yanzhou. After these assassins surrounded Pei Yanzhou, he remained calm, with a cool composure that commanded respect without anger. But I had also come prepared. I pulled out my bow and arrow with a backhand, piercing an enemy's heart with one shot. I instantly attracted the attention of all the assassins. They yelled, "Kill her first!" They were clearly well-trained suicidal soldiers, carrying poison with them, ready to commit suicide if they failed their mission. I fought with all my might to repel them, but before I could reach Pei Yanzhou, I saw a sharp arrow flying straight towards his chest. At the nick of time, I rushed in front of Pei Yanzhou at top speed, and tackled him directly to the ground. Rolling with him in my arms, I dodged the sharp sword, and we ended up in an embrace. My gaze met his eyes flickered slightly, and he quickly averted his gaze. Pei Yanzhou was about to speak when I reached out and covered his mouth, making a shushing gesture. There were rustling sounds by my ear. I glanced sideways and discovered there was still an assassin not quite dead yet, aiming to stab me with a sword. I raised my arm to block, and the sharp sword instantly cut my arm. I kicked the assassin down, gripped his sword hilt in reverse, directly slit his throat, and he died on the spot. A moment later, hoofbeats could be heard. The assassins were instantly scared away. I suppressed the hatred in my heart and looked kindly at Pei Yanzhou. "Are you all right?" Pei Yanzhou shook his head. Seeing the fresh blood welling up on my arm, he frowned and whispered, "You're injured." The number of people who would get injured for him was not small. But those who didn't know his identity and status, yet got injured solely for him, were very few. And that is exactly what I wanted. I pursed my lips. "It is just a minor injury. It'll be fine once I put some medicine on it when we get back." It wouldn't look good for a woman to have scars. Even among Pei Yanzhou's 3,000 beauties in the harem, there probably isn't anyone who rides horses and shoots arrows like me. The rarer something is, the more he wants to possess it. Moreover, he doesn't believe me at all right now. He is even more afraid that I'm in league with that group of people. I directly reported my identity to alleviate his concerns. "I am Shen Ning. It is quite normal for young ladies from our Shen residence to know some horsemanship, isn't it?" As soon as these words were uttered, Pei Yanzhou was startled. He belatedly realized he had misunderstood me. His expression changed, and the vigilance in his eyes lessened a bit. The Shen family army's reputation is illustrious. "I have indeed heard of it." I brightened my brows, smiled radiantly, my tone light and clear. This was the cleanest smile, free of flattery or fawning. Only the bright sunshine of a maiden. I had practiced hard all night for several days. Because what the current imperial palace lacked most was such a brilliant smile. I teased him with an ambiguous tone. "What about you then? What is your name, and what is your rank among your siblings?" Pei Yanzhou's expression froze. I pretended to say, "Oh," nonchalantly, and laughed. "Then you must be a member of the royal family." "Ha! Which princely mansion's young master are you? Don't you know you can't just run around freely in this hunting ground?" Pei Yanzhou's eyes flickered slightly. I continued. "My mother said that when I grow up, I'm destined to marry into the imperial family, and I saved your life. A life-saving grace should be repaid by offering oneself. How will you repay me?" Before her words fell, a rush of hoofbeats came from beside her ear. The late second prince and Pei Jin were both startled by my declaration. Shen Yao, even more so, dismounted and quickly grabbed my hand, trying to drag me down to my knees. I yelped in pain, patting the back of his hand. Shen Yao's expression changed, and he quickly gripped my arm, checking my injury. "Then I'm doomed, aren't I? How am I going to explain this to Dad when I get back? 3 days and 3 nights kneeling in the ancestral hall. There is no escaping it." Shen Yao grumbled as he applied medicine to me. I noticed that Pei Jin and the second prince both wanted to bow, but Pei Yanzhou stopped them. I suppressed the rising curve of my lips, and couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. This was just the beginning. They all thought that Pei Yanzhou would punish me for my thoughtless words, but Pei Yanzhou not only didn't punish me but instead had someone send me back. "Quickly send Miss Shen back to the camp and find an imperial physician to bandage her wound. Since at this very moment, they are still putting on a show of hiding their identities right in front of me. Then don't blame me tonight for pulling this show to its climax." At the Golden Autumn Hunt, the prince's harvests were quite abundant, especially the second prince who hunted the most, and won first place. After the hunt ended, it was already late. The Empress Dowager prepared a night banquet in the imperial palace, and Shen Yao and I were fortunate enough to be invited to enter the palace together and attend the grand feast. When the princes and I appeared together at the night banquet, the Empress Dowager immediately beamed with joy. I turned sideways and bowed. "Your subject daughter Shen Ningyue greets your majesty, the Empress Dowager." The Empress Dowager's eyes and brows were smiling, and her gentle and warm face revealed a hint of deterrence as she gently asked me, "I heard Ningyu also participated in the hunt this time, and you've also reached the age for marriage. Have you taken a liking to any young master? You can tell me, and I will definitely help you choose a husband to your liking. My father holds military power, and his influence at court is formidable. My marriage is related to the future position of crown prince. After all, whoever marries me will have a greater chance of becoming the future crown prince. The prince's gazes all fell upon me. The second prince held his wine cup, a carefree and dashing smile showing between his brows, and he took a sip of wine nonchalantly. Pei Jin sat upright, his expression cold and indifferent, his gaze sweeping over me, revealing a look of certainty. He scoffed with a smile, as if he had already known I would choose him. And my gaze lingered on him for too long, making him increasingly confident. I knelt down, lowered my head, and replied with a resounding voice, "May I ask, Empress Dowager, in today's hunting ground, which other young masters are participating in the hunt? This subject daughter indeed already has someone she fancies, and that is fifth Master Pei from the Pei family." Instantly, the scene fell silent, and everyone's faces changed in unison. Especially Pei Jin, whose expression drastically changed, looking at me incredulously. But the one with the biggest reaction was not him. It was surprisingly the eldest princess, sitting on the side of the high platform. She actually forcefully crushed the teacup. Voila! It shattered all over the floor, but I didn't understand. Yet her reaction was even more resistant than the concubines in the imperial harem. Empress Dowager coughed unhappily, and reprimanded in a low voice. "Chinna, don't be willful here, and lose the imperial family's face. Your humble servant knows her mistake, but your humble servant believes that Miss Shen and the third prince are a perfect match. The third prince is resourceful and intelligent, and Miss Shen is gentle and lovely. They will surely become a loving couple in the future." My heart tightened, and I abruptly looked up at the Empress Dowager. I had struggled for so long, only to end up back on the old path, becoming Pei Jin's fiancée. I secretly clenched my fists, and looking up, I saw a mocking smile playing on the eldest princess's lips. She wouldn't let me into the imperial harem, but I insisted on entering. I knelt down respectfully, my tone neither humble nor arrogant, and said, "Today, meeting Pei family's fifth young master, my heart is filled with joy." I then looked at Pei Jin. His expression wasn't too good, but what I was about to say next would make his face even uglier. The third prince is reserved and steady, deeply favored by the eldest princess. The eldest princess saw that I insisted on marrying an emperor, and her face became extremely unpleasant. "Do you know who Pei fifth young master is? You're not worthy of the third prince. Do you think you're worthy of the current emperor then? I hear someone is looking for Jen. Wanting to marry Jen." Tonight's banquet, Pei Yanzhou was busy with state affairs, so he arrived a bit late. He walked up to me, his deep eyes fixed on me, and said, "Now that you know Jen's identity, do you still want to marry Jen?" I straightened my back, my eyes firm, expressing an unprecedented love. The person I like is fifth young master Pei of the Pei family. No matter who he is, I am willing to marry him. Besides, we've had a life and death bond. He wouldn't abandon me, in my previous life, to please Pei Jin. Now, they actually came in handy. Pei Yanzhou gazed at me for a moment, then turned, walked to the Empress Dowager's side, and slowly sat down. "Shen Ningyu, daughter of the Shen clan, is of gentle and virtuous character and straightforward nature. She can be inducted into the imperial harem as a concubine. The imperial decree will be delivered to the Shen manor in 3 days, to welcome you into the palace." I knelt down and bowed, suppressing the curve of my lips, and whispered, "Your humble servant accepts the decree." At this, the eldest princess's face grew even more unsightly, pale as paper, as if gravely ill. Back at the Shen manor, my mother and father were filled with worry when they heard I was going to enter the palace. Shen Yao and I comforted them for a while, and meticulously analyzed the pros and cons. Only then did they reluctantly agree to let me enter the palace. In a blink of an eye, it was time to enter the palace. I brought my maid, Shuanga, who had been with me since childhood, into the palace. I was conferred the title of Gyron and resided in Yongning Palace. But in the week since entering the palace, I hadn't even seen a glimpse of Pei Yanzhou. He seemed to have forgotten about me, casting me aside. Concubines who are not favored in the palace naturally won't be flattered by the servants. Schwanger, whom I brought into the palace, 2 personal maids were also assigned to me. Yongning Palace was slightly out of the way, quiet and peaceful, no one would come to bother. Everyone seemed to have forgotten that the newly entered Gyron lived here. Until I met the eldest princess and consort Wen in the imperial garden. Consort Wen is the birth mother of the second prince. Because she has the eldest princess and the second prince backing her, she usually managed the affairs of the 6 palaces, and all the concubines in the harem had to respect her. Seeing my appearance, Consort Wen scoffed, as if she had seen something dirty. "Who is this?" Not even bowing and paying respects when seeing me and the princess. So ill-mannered, and she still thought the emperor would indulge her little temper. A woman who doesn't hesitate to throw herself at someone, just to marry into the harem, and enjoy wealth and glory. The imperial palace is not as relaxed and comfortable as a private mansion. I pulled out a handkerchief and performed a side curtsy. The grand princess squinted her eyes and smiled disdainfully. "I used to think you were my imperial brother's beauty, but now it seems you're nothing special. Every woman under heaven wants to get into my imperial brother's bed, but don't you even weigh whether you have what it takes?" They were indirectly mocking me. After all, quite a few enter the palace only to fall out of favor immediately. The grand princess immediately laughed. "You're looking for stability in the harem. I really don't know if you're naive. Or just stupid." The impression I left on the grand princess was probably that of a simple, innocent, yet foolish beauty. This is for the best. Only by making them lower their guard against me can I seize an opportunity. Pei Yanzhou always chose concubines in order. He had never exclusively favored anyone. In his eyes, concubines seemed to be nothing more than tools for procreation. I never actively sought out Pei Yanzhou. The women Pei Yanzhou had seen were beyond imagination. Even if meticulously dressed, there was no difference in his eyes. In my previous life, I heard Pei Jin say that he was busy reviewing memorials all year round, and often suffered from headaches and insomnia. I specifically changed the incense in Yongning Palace to soothing incense, and even the sachet on me was replaced with special spices. During my time in the palace, I was not idle either. I often consulted books, carefully reading about the functions of spices and the process of their development. After seeing Pei Yanzhou, I turned sideways and gave a gentle bow. "Your humble concubine greets your majesty." Pei Yanzhou gazed deeply at me, then walked forward and took my hand. "It has been so long since we last met. Do you blame me? Your majesty is busy for the sake of the people of the world." How can there be any talk of blame? I leaned into his embrace, and a blush gradually appeared on my face. Back then, even when I was with Pei Jin, we never had such intimate gestures. He narrowed his phoenix eyes, his dangerous gaze falling upon me. "What is that scent on you?" "This is soothing incense. I brought from the Shen residence. It helps with sleep. I've carried it since I was a child. Does your majesty find the scent uncomfortable?" Fate. Fate leaned against my neck and shoulder. Took a careful sniff. The corners of his mouth lightly curled up, and he said indifferently, "This scent truly is very sleep-inducing." Fei was probably exhausted. He didn't perform conjugal duties, instead collapsing beside me and falling fast asleep. The matter of him not consummating the marriage with me. At first only Shuang'er knew. When she found the bedsheets were all clean, her face showed a bit of surprise and disappointment. In less than a day, the entire imperial harem knew that Fei hadn't had intercourse with me. Because of this, I was even mocked by my sisters in the harem. His Majesty has always distributed his favors equally, so how come it doesn't work when it comes? Perhaps Sister Shen's underdeveloped figure fails to arouse His Majesty's interest. With that said, the imperial concubines in the harem burst into a fit of laughter, mocking my figure for being too flat. Consort Wen was also amused. and she placated me with feigned sincerity. Sister Shen, don't worry, it'll still be your turn at the end of next month. If you can't even satisfy His Majesty with conjugal duties, Sister Shen, I'm afraid you won't be chosen again. I smiled faintly. Saying nothing, I specially lit calming incense for him, walked up to him, and said softly. My father fought wars outside for years. And when he returned, my mother would massage him to relieve stress. Would your Majesty like to try? Fei Jifei nodded in agreement. I helped him massage to relieve stress, my body unconsciously brushing against his, and I would lean forward to help him rub his temples. Halfway through massaging, Pei Yanzhou suddenly reached out and grabbed my wrist. His deep eyes falling upon my body, seducing me, I suddenly widened my eyes and said innocently, Your Majesty, why would you say that? Your humble concubine truly just wanted to relieve your stress. Pei Yanzhou curved his lips into a smile, his large hand gripping my waist, his fingertips intentionally or unintentionally teasing. He said hoarsely, there is another way to relieve stress. Want to try it? I blushed and said in a low voice. What? Pei Yanzhou pressed himself forward, and with a backhand, pinned me beneath him. It only stopped when dawn just broke. Shuang'er walked in. Shuang'er leaned into my ear and told me the truth. It turned out to be Chengxiao. Since they care so much about whether my relationship with Pei Yanzhou is harmonious, then I definitely won't let them down. Recently, Pei Yanzhou has been staying overnight in my room every single day. I never cling to him or linger intimately with him. He mostly hides here to sleep. Only because my place allows him to sleep soundly, but even so, sleeping together day and night, getting pregnant this way, is only a matter of time, ever since she knew Pei Yanzhou favored me. Her gaze towards me grew increasingly cold, as if I had stolen her man. The moment this thought popped into my head, I was startled. Pei Jin and the eldest princess having an affair is already absurd enough. If she were to get together with Pei Yanzhou again, wouldn't that completely overthrow the dynasty? Upon learning I was pregnant, both the eldest princess and consort Wen sent many tonics, all of them rare treasures, difficult to find on ordinary days. I focused on my pregnancy in Yongning Palace, rarely interacting with the concubines from other palaces. Until consort Wen invited the concubines to admire flowers. Even the eldest princess was there. When Shuang'er told me, I was still examining the hairpin on my forehead. Gently rubbing my fingertips, Shuang'er asked cautiously, Your ladyship, is there anything wrong? Nothing. At the flower appreciation banquet, concubine Wen and the eldest princess sat together chatting and enjoying the view. When concubine Wen spoke to the eldest princess, she always revealed a cautious and uneasy tension, as if trying to curry favor, and also as if probing. The eldest princess noticed my gaze. Her arrogant eyes scrutinized me, and she said casually, Noble Lady Shen, now that you are pregnant, you must be careful. Harming the imperial fetus would be a grave sin. Your Highness is right. Your Highness is your concubine's first child. My fingers naturally covered my abdomen. In the imperial garden, 100 flowers bloomed simultaneously. A breathtaking sight. A hunting eagle suddenly flew into the imperial garden, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Isn't this His Majesty's new pet, the hunting eagle? I heard this hunting eagle is majestic and fierce. No wonder His Majesty likes it so much. This eagle has always been kept in a cage. Why was it sudden? It flew straight towards me, and the concubines who were just discussing were suddenly startled. Everyone frantically dodged, and I was also pulled by my sleeve by Shuang'er. But the hunting eagle was flying in the sky. What could anyone do about it? Many servants were in a panic, yelling with sharp voices. I stumbled to the ground in a panic, but the falcon frantically pecked at my hair's end. Even wild birds were attracted, pecking at my hair's end in a frenzy. I quickly shielded my abdomen, and reached up to hold my hair ornament on my forehead. This sorry state was seen by the eldest princess. She smiled casually, her eyes full of triumph. It was as if she was silently warning me that I was still too green to fight her. Shuanga frantically shooed away the falcon, tightly holding me in her arms. No one is allowed to bully my lady. I subconsciously covered my abdomen, my face extremely pale. Consort Wen called out faintly. Quickly call for the imperial physician. I was startled and fainted in Shuanga's arms. When I woke up again, I saw Pei Yanzhou sitting calmly beside me. His eyes filled with emotions I couldn't understand. Seeing me awake, he reached out and held my hand. You're awake? My eyes read. I asked. Your Majesty. Our child. I used the child as a bargaining chip, turning their scheme against them. I just wanted to bite back. I clutched Pei Yanzhou's fingers tightly. Tears streaming down uncontrollably, and said with waves of lingering fear, Your Majesty. Your humble concubine is truly scared now. What if I can't keep the child? This is your humble concubine's first child. Ah. Pei Yanzhou's fingertips wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes. His gentle tone laced with a hint of ruthlessness. He said faintly. Don't worry. I have already ordered the falcon to be put to death. Hearing this, I immediately shook my head. So many people watched. Just watched your humble concubine being pecked at. Peck after peck, watched your humble concubine shouting for help. But I wasn't like this before, I said, almost choking up, even forgetting to refer to myself formally. Clearly, I was once the pampered. Clearly, I could ride horses and shoot arrows. After hearing my words, Pei Yanzhou was furious. The powder was extremely cleverly hidden in the hairpin, which was why no one noticed. After discovering the truth, Pei Yanzhou's expression was grim, and a hint of ruthlessness flashed across his calm face. It seems someone wants to harm my imperial son. All the servants and maids in Yongning Palace were implicated. They knelt neatly before Pei Yanzhou. Pei Yanzhou ordered people to search for the medicinal powder. One by one, even the maids who went to admire the flowers together were not spared. Ultimately, the medicinal powder was found on Han Shuang, Consort Wen's personal maid. Han Shuang looked at Cheng Xiao in great shock. Cheng Xiao, however, stood behind me without a change in expression. I already knew Cheng Xiao was Consort Wen's person. I knew it from the first time she spread the news that we hadn't consummated our marriage. And I, seizing the opportunity, spent a large sum of money to win Cheng Xiao over. Even if Cheng Xiao administered the medicine, wasn't the powder given by Han Shuang? Finally, I would return it to her subtly, and no one would know. Moreover, Han Shuang is Consort Wen's personal maid. This way, besides Consort Wen's instigation, who would dare to harm the imperial heir? Consort Wen's face turned pale, and she said flusteredly, Your Majesty, none of this has anything to do with concubine. Concubine has never dared to harm anyone. The evidence was conclusive. Even more sophistry would be useless. Pei Yanzhou was furious, and immediately revoked Consort Wen's authority to manage the 6 palaces. This is not the first time. Now, you've even escalated it, daring to harm my imperial son. You truly have a death wish. From now on, Consort Wen is forbidden to step half a step out of Jinghe Palace, sentenced to a quiet death. Consort Wen slumped to the ground, as if losing her soul. The entire imperial harem fell into a long silence, and the news of Consort Wen's punishment soon reached the second prince's ears. No matter how the second prince pleaded, he was rejected by Pei Yanzhou. He even issued a stern threat: whoever dares to plead for Consort Wen again will be executed like her. In desperation, the second prince went to beg the eldest princess, Imperial aunt. You usually had the best relationship with Mother Consort. Now she is in this plight because of you. You can't just stand by and watch her die. The eldest princess gazed at him condescendingly, and couldn't help but smile. She angered Imperial brother. How am I supposed to save her? Besides, when was she ever for my sake? I have never thought of harming anyone. At this, the second prince was utterly disappointed. He choked out. I knew there would inevitably be a movement from the second prince's side, so I specifically placed an informant next to him. Consort Wen had the power to assist in managing the 6 palaces only because she had the eldest princess backing her. Now, I not only want to overthrow the eldest princess's power in the harem, but also to make the eldest princess and the second prince completely break ties. It is truly wonderful. Now, the only person the eldest princess can rely on is Pei Jin. But I also learned that father had handed over his military authority. While I was unconscious, my dad actually sought out Pei Yanzhou proactively, willing to hand over his military power to ensure the safety of the child in my womb. The Shen family held great military power, their merits overshadowing the emperor. My child, regardless of gender, was destined not to be born smoothly, to allow me to give birth safely in the imperial harem. My dad did not hesitate to give up real power in exchange for my safety. I secretly suppressed the surging hatred in my heart, pretending to understand nothing. Pei Yanzhou also became attentive to me, promoting me from Gairen to Pin, but what I wanted was never these things. The Shen family was too prominent, attracting too much attention. In a few more years, it would be a make-or-break situation, just like in my previous life. I must secure a place in the palace, and have enough say in front of Pei Yanzhou. Even more so, I want to destroy both the eldest princess and Pei Jin with my own hands, sending them to eternal damnation. Eldest princess had long been eager to act. She absolutely did not want me to give birth to the child safely. Recently, the eldest princess finally made her move. She came to Yongning Palace with Pei Yanzhou. Seeing a group of people making such a fuss, I quickly went out to greet them. The eldest princess looked cold and arrogant, a glint of coldness flashing in her eyes, and she angrily said, "Concubine Shen, how did the third prince know there was a mark on your left shoulder?" And even boldly drew it. "You and the third prince have been having a secret affair all along, haven't you?" At that moment, I realized that the eldest princess didn't like Pei Jin at all. She only used Pei Jin through and through. And the person she loved. I subconsciously looked at Pei Yanzhou, not daring to think any further. My eyes welled up with tears, and I said innocently, seeing that I wouldn't admit it. The eldest princess immediately sneered. "Imperial brother, concubine Shen was so eager to marry you back then. She even begged to marry you at the night banquet. And not long after, she became pregnant with your child. It has only been 5 months, and her belly is already so big. It doesn't look like 5 months." These words were clearly meant to put me to death. Even my child would be hard to save. But she couldn't really think she had caught me, could she? I fell to my knees with a thud, my hands trembling as I held my bulging abdomen and whispered, "Your Majesty, this concubine has never had any intimate acts with the third prince. This concubine does indeed have a birthmark. Your Majesty." I suddenly changed my tone and asked, "Princess, do you know what mark is on my left shoulder?" Hearing this, the eldest princess directly raised the painting scroll and said quite confidently, "Of course, the third prince has already painted the rose mark on your left shoulder. What else do you have to deny?" Hearing it was a rose mark, Pei Yanzhou's expression relaxed, and his demeanor became much calmer. I also took the opportunity to stand up, walked to Pei Yanzhou's side, and held his hand. "Your Majesty, Consort Shen, what tricks are you playing now? Pei Jin, are you going to continue being absurd?" With that, but I took her painting, and couldn't help but smile. "Princess, even if you have prejudice against your humble concubine, you shouldn't try to deceive His Majesty with a blank sheet of paper." As soon as these words came out, the Grand Princess's face instantly changed. She looked at the scroll in disbelief. The scroll was completely empty. Let alone a painting of a beauty. Not even a single drop of ink could be seen. "This is impossible." Pei Yanzhou's expression was icy cold, his eyes full of impatience, and he asked her with a somber face, "How much longer are you going to mess around? Pei Jin, have you forgotten all the rules of the imperial palace?" So the Grand Princess knelt before Pei Yanzhou to beg for forgiveness. "China knows her mistake. Imperial brother, please don't be angry." Pei Yanzhou was still relatively patient with her and did not severely punish her. "Go back and be confined, copy scriptures 100 times, and don't come causing trouble again. After this incident, Pei Yanzhou felt guilty and paid even more attention to me. Whether I was pregnant or not, he would stay in my room every day, no longer doubting my sincerity towards him. The reason why the Grand Princess was so sure that the tattoo on my left shoulder was a rose, not a peony, was because she had sent someone to the Shen mansion to inquire about information earlier, and thus secretly persuaded Pei Jin to draw a painting. Pei Jin, with his love-struck brain, is utterly stupid. He probably has no idea about her malicious intentions. But what she didn't know was, ink used to paint this painting had already been secretly swapped by someone my brother, Shen Yao. It is useful for transmitting intelligence and preventing enemies from intercepting and detecting military information. And no one knew that this ink was also quite effective for painting. News of the eldest princess being punished soon spread. It had long reached Pei Jin's ears, and he paid extra attention to every move of the eldest princess. This time, he was punished again because of his painting, and Pei Jin was quite defiant. He repeatedly went to paint, drawing the figure of the eldest princess. Every painting could be seen indoors, but outside, there was nothing. All the civil and military officials came to congratulate her on her birthday, and even the imperial concubines in the harem prepared generous gifts, and sent them to the eldest princess's palace. Everyone knew that Pei Yanzhou doted on the eldest princess immensely, and indulged her to the extreme. They all couldn't wait to curry favor with the eldest princess. After the banquet began, I immediately noticed a painting in Pei Jin's hand. Then, I looked at Shen Yao, who was drinking. He looked at me and nodded subtly. I turned and sat down, pretending that nothing had happened. The ministers all presented generous gifts, and the second prince also offered gold, jade, and agate. It was Pei Jin's turn. He stepped forward, holding up a scroll with both hands. This is a painting I personally drew. Every stroke depicts my feelings for Auntie. I hope Auntie doesn't dislike it. I glanced at Shen Yao, who caught the signal in my eyes. He immediately chimed in, stirring up the crowd. I've long heard that the third prince's painting skills are exquisite and lifelike. Since the third prince has put so much effort into this, why don't we let His Majesty and the ministers enjoy it together? Immediately, many ministers began to turn their heads and converse. The third prince loves to compose poems and paint. It is said that his paintings are hard to come by. With such dedication, it would be such a pity not to open and appreciate such painting skills together. The third prince is just too modest. Such a divine work should be widely spread among the people. The ministers really knew how to flatter. Even Pei Yanzhou's interest was piqued, and he commanded, "Go ahead and open. If it is well painted, there will be a generous reward." Pei Jin revealed a troubled expression. It would probably greatly disappoint everyone. Yet, he couldn't defy the imperial decree. He could only slowly unroll the scroll. The moment it was opened, everyone in the hall gasped. The previously calm eldest princess completely lost her composure. She stood up excitedly, her eyes filled with rage and despair. Feiyu even smashed his wine cup, roaring, "Absurd!" Instantly, everyone knelt down trembling. Fei looked at the painting completely bewildered. At that moment, endless despair consumed him, making his legs go limp, and he uncontrollably threw the scroll down, almost in disbelief. This painting actually revealed itself completely under the sunlight. The woman in the portrait no longer had no face. Instead, it was the Grand Princess. Her clothes were thin, her fragrant shoulders half exposed, as she leaned against the soft couch. Her beautiful feet were slightly toutsy, raised, coquettish and alluring. Completely different from her usual haughty and cold demeanor, because of the ink. Fei Jin had never imagined this painting would be seen by everyone. He had even less imagined that Feiyu would see it with his own eyes. The Grand Princess's reputation was utterly disgraced. She was not yet married, but had been painted a provocative painting by a prince. Your son doesn't know why this painting appeared here. This painting must have been swapped. Pei Jin's expression was extremely displeased. He suppressed his anger and ordered someone to examine the painting, and also found someone to compare it with Pei Jin's previous paintings. Finally, a minister stepped forward, bowed low, and knelt, trembling as he said, "Every stroke and every ink mark confirms that this was indeed painted by the third prince himself." Pei Yanzhou was in a towering rage, not even caring about the imperial family's dignity. He directly flung the scroll at Pei Jin's face with a backhand, shouting angrily, "How much more do you intend to quibble? You dare to harbor designs on the Princess Royal. It is simply an insult to the imperial family's dignity." Pei Jin was completely terrified. He knelt on the ground, cold sweat pouring down his forehead, explaining incoherently, "Your son only feels admiration for my aunt, and has never entertained thoughts of romantic involvement. His painting had already proven everything, yet he was still trying to quibble now." I was about to stand up when I saw Shen Yao already step forward and bow. "Your Majesty, your subject and the third prince are quite close. I once saw a wall full of scrolls in his study. The women in the paintings were lifelike, but all of them had no faces. Your subject dares to speculate. Could the subjects in all these paintings be Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal?" Pei Yanzhou's expression was utterly cold. He raised his foot and kicked Pei Jin. He narrowed his eyes, forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart, and said in a low voice, thoroughly search the third prince's palace, without missing a single detail." Pei Jin knelt on the ground, almost in despair, looking at Shen Yao in disbelief. He didn't know. All of this was within my calculations. I had already had Shen Yao replace his ink. And before he sent the painting, I replaced the invisible ink with normal ink. As long as I secretly pushed things at the birthday banquet, Pei Jin would end up like he did today. The injustice of my previous life has been completely vindicated. At this moment, I feel nothing but immense satisfaction. Soon, a large number of scrolls were found in Pei Jin's study, all of which were paintings of faceless beauties. Each scroll depicted his endless love for the eldest princess. Not only that, but the guards also found a golden hairpin under Pei Jin's pillow. When Pei Yanzhou took the golden hairpin, he clenched his fist abruptly. The eldest princess could no longer hold on, collapsing weakly to the ground, tears falling uncontrollably. Pei Yanzhou, furious, laughed instead, and questioned her coldly. "Pei Jin, I personally gave you this golden hairpin. Back then, you said you lost it and sent people searching for a long time. Yet now it is on Pei Jin's bed. How do you explain this?" After saying that, Pei Yanzhou directly threw down the golden hairpin. A loud clang echoed. The golden hairpin fell to the ground, and the entire scene became deadly silent. The eldest princess, disregarding her image, rushed forward and picked up the golden hairpin. She lowered her head, crying bitterly, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. "Imperial brother, I never thought I had anything with Pei Jin. At this point, you won't believe me anymore." Pei Yanzhou's eyes were filled with chilling coldness, as if he was extremely angry. Even his tone became fierce. "How do you expect me to believe you?" The eldest princess's eyes were red, filled with tears, and her expression became tragic and pitiable. She laughed helplessly, saying, "Don't you know who the person I truly love is?" She was accusing Pei Yanzhou, but Pei Yanzhou was the emperor, a supreme and unshakable emperor. Even though she expressed it so clearly, what greeted her was a slap. He slapped the eldest princess across the face, and issued his final command. "Eldest Princess Pei Jin, for improper conduct and violating ethics, you are banished from the capital, never to return. Send her to a nunnery to atone for her sins through Suxing cultivation." At this moment, the despair in Pei Jin's eyes was fully revealed. She laughed up to the sky, tears continuously rolling down from the corners of her eyes. "Brother, China can no longer accompany you from now on. But China still has to say, do you really think the women in this harem love you?" Pei Jin's malicious eyes suddenly fell on me, and her finger pointed at me. "Especially her," Shen Ning, China really wishes to return to childhood with brother, when you were just my brother. Hearing that Pei Jin was to be expelled from the palace, Pei Jin crawled to her front, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Aunt? I'm the one who harmed you, Consort Shen, please intercede for aunt, don't let her leave the capital. Pei Jin reached out and tugged at my dress. Nowadays, I am Pei Yanzhou's most favored concubine in the imperial harem, and I am pregnant with the imperial heir. He had no way out. So he could only come and beg me. How infatuated. Pei Jin can barely save himself now, and he still wants me to help her. Seeing this, Pei Yanzhou kicked Pei Jin flying. Looking at him expressionlessly, Third Prince Pei Jin, your conduct is debauched and utterly foolish. From then on, whether he lived or died had nothing to do with the imperial family. Pei Jin's face was ashen, and he bent down miserably, as if the sky had fallen, covering his face, and letting out a choking sound. No matter how much he begged, Pei Yanzhou would never look back. Pei Jin was exiled to Yazhou, and Pei Jin shaved her head to become a nun. Although their private affair was known to all, no one dared to discuss it without risking their lives. From then on, Pei Yanzhou's health worsened. It seemed he was sick with anger, always having headaches and sleeping poorly. He could only stay in my palace and get a little shallow sleep. As for me, a few months later, I successfully gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The Empress Dowager and Pei Yanzhou were both exceedingly happy. Dragon and Phoenix bringing auspiciousness was a good omen. Pei Yanzhou personally took up the brush to bestow names, and the princess was titled Princess Luan, and the prince was directly made the crown prince. Pei Yanzhou took tonics all year round, but showed no improvement. Recently, his headaches became uncontrollable again, and he spoke a lot of nonsense. That night, he held me tightly, his eyes revealing endless possessiveness. Ningyue, I only have you, only you won't betray me, they all will betray me. I gently massaged his temples, my tone incredibly gentle. Your Majesty, I only love you, and will never betray you in this life. He had no idea that from the first time he stepped into Yongning Palace, I had put acacia tree root bark in the incense. Every time he left, I would remove the incense and drink the antidote to prevent poisoning. This small amount wouldn't be discovered, but long-term inhalation would lead to problems of dependency and mental breakdown. Coupled with Pei Jin's provocation, it further aggravated the condition. 5 years later, the news of Pei Yanzhou's death from illness spread throughout the entire palace. Inside and outside the imperial palace, there was a chorus of weeping. This news soon reached Pei Jin's ears. Upon learning of this, before her death, she cried tragically, almost despairingly shouting, "Brother, if I could do it again, I would never be your sibling. I want to be your wife for a lifetime." Unfortunately, until his death, Pei Yanzhou never heard her veiled yet direct love. And after Pei Jin was exiled, he wouldn't have an easy time. Maybe he has already been beaten to death with sticks. Shen Yao was going to the battlefield again. This time, I repeatedly warned him to be careful of traitors, and not to easily trust those around him. I also gave him a protective iron armor to prevent any accidents. Later, I heard the news that Shen Yao had become a generation's god of war. He returned triumphantly, standing in front of me perfectly intact, making me unable to stop my tears. Thankfully, I changed his fate of dying tragically on the battlefield. Thankfully, my father and mother were both still alive. Thankfully, they were all safe and sound. After Pei Yanzhou passed, the Empress Dowager was overwhelmed with grief, and also fell ill and died a year later. I became the youngest Empress Dowager. The crown prince ascended to the throne. Being young, I governed from behind a curtain. In this world, where is there any love as deep as the sea? It is all an illusion. On this day when I held supreme power, I stood in the imperial court, watching 100 officials bow, and my heart was stirred with immense waves. Empress Dowager, long live, long live, long live. Turns out, it is power that is as deep as the sea.